some sporting CV, Gavin, and I guess welcoming you, and the first question really is, tell us about your experience playing for and then leading the British and Irish Lions, and indeed why you reflect on that as such a compelling challenge.
Well, first of all, good morning, everybody, and thanks for having me on. And great pleasure for me to be here this morning to speak to you all. Yeah, the Lions, it's an amazing experience to be part of. The British and Irish Lions essentially is a team that goes to the Southern Hemisphere once every 4 years and plays either Australia, South Africa, or New Zealand. They haven't played for 4 years. They pick the best of the players from England, Scotland, Ireland, and Wales. And you really are the best of the best. You come from different cultures, different backgrounds. You play against each other for this intervening period. And then all of a sudden, they pick a squad of 35 or 36 players. And you're immediately a team. You haven't even played a game. The last game was 4 years ago. And your challenge is to beat one of the great Southern Hemisphere powerhouses of world rugby in a 3-test series by winning obviously 2 out of the 3 tests. So the challenge is enormous. And, you know, as a rugby player, getting the great honor of leading that team is just even better. And, you know, so for me, massive challenge. How do you bring everybody together, and how do you get everybody to believe as passionately, I think, as I do and I did at that time? And, you know, there's no easy answers to that, a heck of a lot of hard work. But I think you just have to find a common denominator, a common desire to actually win and to triumph against all the odds. And for me, it was all about enjoyment. I just thought if you really can relish the opportunity and realize that you are together for a period of weeks, only weeks, 7 or 8 weeks. And this squad of 35 players will never, ever play together again after that tour is over. So it's just massively exciting. It's massively, you've got a chance to create history. And for me, that's what it was all about, just challenging yourself, in my instance, against the All Blacks as captain and trying to win 2 out of 3 games. We came pretty close. We didn't quite do it, but I can still hold my head high, and I'll look anyone that I played in the eye, anyone that I played in the eye, and in my own mind, I don't think that they were any better than me. They might have played and scored more points in 1 extra game, but they were no better than me. And that's the true Scottish grit. I love it.
Gavin, that's fantastic. And Fraser Evans, who's the key leader, director of drilling and wells for UK and the Netherlands for Neptune Energy, he set the scene earlier this morning, along with Michael, another key leader of this campaign. And one of the points that Fraser made was that Neptune Energy have selected the best players in each position, so the best people for the job from each of the companies involved here. So that's Neptune Energy, Valaris, the drilling contractor, and then all the service partners and project engineers. He said that they have selected the best people, just as the British and Irish Lions do every 4 years. But in the background, you've got so many challenges, you've got distractions, you've got the media. In this case, for this campaign team, there's COVID-19 in the background. There's all sorts of challenges that are outside your control. From your experience as a leader of Scotland going into a Rugby World Cup, or a leader of the British Lions going on a tour, how did you help the players and the team to focus in on what they could control and get the best out of themselves as a team?
Well, that's a very good question, Tim. I mean, for me, it's you've got to control the controllables in many respects. And for you know, as captain, then clearly there's a lot of demands placed upon you in terms of speaking to the media and dealing with well, you have to do a lot of speeches and you know, you're on show the whole time. But I guess I probably took that in my stride. I enjoyed it. You know, when you're on the other side of the world, what else are you going to do? You're there as, in essence, even though it was an amateur game in those days, you're there as a full-time professional player in many respects. And, you know, short of going to bed every night, you got 16 hours of daylight, if you like, or being up during the day to deal with all these things. So I just felt that it was a question of dealing with the press. They've all got their jobs to do. And if you actually understand that and realize that they've got deadlines to keep, and you know, if you give them some time, and you do that on a regular basis, then when you need some time back on your own and say, look, guys, I'm really sorry, I've given you 15, 20 minutes now, but if you don't mind, I'm going to go off and have some of my own time. Then I think there's a lot of respect that builds up then. And you know, and the same challenges that everybody with this Neptune situation is going, and COVID and whatever else, and there's just a lot of difficulties, but don't get stressed out with that. You know that they're there, and just deal with them. And you know, you imagine all these people that have got Christmas plans this particular year that have had to change those plans, and you know, there'll be an awful lot of people getting totally stressed out about it. And it's awful. It's an awful situation. No one's saying it's great. But we know there was a chance of that happening. Everyone knows that lockdown is happening in a few days' time. So just deal with it. Just go and say, what are the things that I'm there to do? Let's be very, very good. And remember, the strength of the team, you're only as strong as the weakest member in that team. And we had Jim Telfer, our great coach, Scottish coach, that led Scotland to 2 Grand Slams. He led the Lions to success in South Africa in 1997. And Jim was absolutely incredible. And he said, he would point to you, are you going to be the weakest member of this team? I would go, no, Mr. Telfer, no. And he'd go around the hall. And, you know, he would maybe rule a wee bit by fear and coach by fear. But my God, did you respect the man? Because he would never ask you to do anything that he wouldn't have done himself. And just a very quick story, if I may, about Jim Telfer. When he played rugby, he lived in the borders town of Melrose. And every Friday night before a home game, he would go into the River Tweed and find the biggest rock that he could lift up. And he'd lift it above his head 10 times, this massive big rock in the River Tweed, in his shorts. And you know, his mentality, his reasoning for doing that was the person that he was playing against the very next day. In his own mind, Jim knew that that person would not be in his local river lifting up a rock above his head. So whatever gives you that advantage, guys, just find that. Seek to get an advantage. And all the time, I always sought to take an advantage, to look at a reason why either Scotland were better or the British Lions were better than the opposition, and make your team believe that you're good enough to win, because belief is very important as well.
Thanks, Gavin. And, you know, Jim Telfer, Ian McGeechan, you talked about Finlay Calder briefly before we were chatting, and indeed yourself, Gavin, all inspiring leaders. So, you know, when we look at leadership, there's always more work to do. There's always more that can be done. I think it's always important to learn from the greats in whichever industry or sporting arena. You know, we chatted before about some of the experiences that you had as a young player coming into the Scottish team, sort of ahead of your first cap for Scotland or in your early years for Scotland. We've got a number of supervisors and leaders on this call who will play important leadership roles on this Neptune Energy Seagull campaign. What are some of your insights, observations, and memories of good leadership? Any tips that you could give us?
Yeah, that's another excellent question, Tim. I mean, for me, communication is key, isn't it? And you know, you can never over communicate. You know, it's not possible, I don't think, to do that and to keep everybody in the loop. And I always remember my very first international match, and I was rooming with my hero at the time, John Rutherford, who one of the great standoffs of Scotland. And there was a knock on the door, and I went to open the door. And it was Colin Deans, our captain, from the Hoyt Club, the famous Hoyt Club, and they used to be the most amazing club side, and they would win everything. Probably one of the best club sides in the whole of the UK. And I thought Colin, naturally enough, was coming in to see John Rutherford. And I said, John's in the loo. You know, he said, no, I'm coming to see you. And I said, what are you coming to see me for? And we went into the bedroom, and he sat down, and he just said, is everything okay? And what I hadn't appreciated at that time was that he was taking time out of his busy pre-match schedule to come round the rooms of every one of the younger guys and indeed everybody else that we always roomed with a roommate at that time. And he would come around all the rooms and make sure that if there was any questions or any things that I wasn't very comfortable with, then in the privacy of my own room I could say that, rather than being maybe embarrassed in a team meeting or whatever that we would have a wee bit later on. And that had a profound effect on me. And of course I didn't really have any problems in those days. I was a pretty confident lad and whatever else. But I do remember when I became Scotland captain a number of years later that I did exactly the same, and I went round every one of my team in their rooms just an hour before the team meeting, and I said, and I would sit everyone down and just go through what I was expecting of them as a member of that team. And remember, what I've said, don't be that weakest member of the team. Don't give away soft penalties. Just be on focus and on point, and just be very, very sure of what your tactics were. And I'm a great believer that you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Communication is key. Just make things as clear and concise as possible, as simple as possible, because simple messages just carry so much more weight. We don't need to convolute things. As you've already said, everybody that is in the call is the best of the best. You know what you've got to be doing. So go on and carry out your work as part of a team. Do it to the best of your ability. And if you can look yourself in the mirror every day and say, I did my very best, then you're going to be successful. You're going to be part of a successful team, because that's all that anyone can ask of you.
Yeah, that's outstanding guidance. I mean, when you mentioned that before and reminding me again, just connecting with your team members, no matter which leader you are, it's just great practice, isn't it? And I guess I've got to ask, Gavin, you would have faced setbacks, you would have faced challenges, you would have gone on tours, British Lions tours, and games wouldn't have gone your way. You may not have got the result that you wanted. Again, it's a leadership question, and you've been there, done it many times. How do you bounce back from a setback? How do you pull a team together when things don't go quite as well as you would have hoped?
Well, clearly, I mean, sport as in life, it's not all plain sailing, as you've suggested. And, business life and sport, you have to face coming back from setbacks and bounce back. But I think the key thing for great leaders, whether it's business leaders or sportsmen or women, is their ability to bounce back from any sort of setbacks and maintaining a belief in yourself. I have to say that when I was chosen as Lions captain, I'd only been captain of the Scotland team on 5 occasions during that year's 5 Nations Championship. And we played a pre-tournament game against Canada, and then we had 4 matches. And I realized I'd set myself an ambition of wanting to be very much front and center and be my name to be mentioned in the Lions captaincy option. And Will Carling had been captain of England for many, many years. But, unless you have opposition, unless you are able to have an ability to select from 2 or 3 people, there's always a chance that you might not get the best person for the job. So, I had tremendous self-confidence, tremendous self-belief. And I think that ability to bounce back from setbacks is crucial. And you know what? You can't just, again, reinvent the wheel. There's nothing like hard work to get back and just concentrate on the basics. If things haven't gone well and you haven't had a good day, and you've missed a couple of tackles, well, what's wrong? Is your technique wrong? Get that sorted out. Work on what the basics are, and just try and build up some confidence again. And, great business leaders, great sports leaders, they've managed to bounce back, with this real feeling of self-belief and self-worth and just the ability to know in their own mind that they're going to be good enough. And, like I said earlier, I may have lost on the scoreboard, but I'll look anyone in the eye that I ever played with or against and say, I was the equal of you. And it's quite a comforting thing to do that. And I think, sometimes we're uncomfortable, Scottish people by their nature, and I guess there's a few Scots on this call this morning that, you know, I love when Scots stand up there and are proud and they celebrate their success and, you know, really show joy. And boy, have we had some brilliant, tenacious leaders. And you look at the likes of Sir Chris Hoy and Sir Andy Murray and Colin Montgomery and just tremendous Liz McColgan and, you know, just great sportsmen and women that we've had that provide a wonderful lead to us all. And, you know, look at the Scotland football team earlier, and they won that the penalty shootout against Israel. And it's just magic. It's magic when we have some success. And, you know, I love seeing Scottish people standing there and just saying, you know, I'm very, very proud, because we should do it more often. And, you know, I want to wish everybody connected with this operation all the very best.
Yeah, Scotland the Brave. Inspiring message as always, Gavin, and absolute pleasure chatting to you. And one of the points you made there in that last commentary was around getting the basics right. And, you know, we'll be going into groups this afternoon and tomorrow, and that will be our very specific focus, actually, is looking at parts of the drilling program and doing our best as a group of players or operators to get the basics right, to learn from other experiences, to bring our expertise to the table, to show up. What's your final message for the team before we end this interview and move on?
Yeah, I think I'll offer you a little quotation from Ian McGeechan, one of the great Scotland and Lions coaches. And I think this is the essence of sort of teamwork. So I'll quote him now. In everything I want the players to do, they have to have a passion and an emotion to succeed and achieve. Winning and a belief about winning is emotional. It gets the adrenaline moving. It sends you on a high when you win, and it makes you cry when you lose, because it matters. There must be that passion to succeed and to achieve and to keep on achieving, to raise horizons and expectations. Excellence is continuous. You've never done enough. You can never be satisfied. But as the team grows, they achieve a special identity. It's no longer one person's image, but a reflection of everyone's interests, their abilities, and their beliefs. And so, you know, for me, that's the essence of teamwork. It's the essence of people coming together, different cultures, different backgrounds, but you're working for that one team in the pursuit of excellence, in the pursuit of success. So I think that's a very apt message as I bid you Merry Christmas and good luck for everything in the weeks ahead.
Thanks so much, Gavin. Pleasure as always. And Merry Christmas on behalf of all of us to you and your family as well. And I look forward to speaking to you again in the new year.
Good luck, everyone, and we'll hear how you get on. And Merry Christmas. Thanks
a lot. Cheers, Gavin. Speak soon.